Despite claims of restored normalcy, the Ambazonia region remains gripped by escalating insecurity. The harsh reality on the ground paints a dire picture. From nationwide lockdown, which is also a means of restricting movement and access, gunfire exchanges continues unabated, fueling fear and uncertainty. Education disrupted, leaving students vulnerable to violence. The contrast between reported progress and grim reality raises pressing questions. What defines normalcy in Ambazonia? Who benefits from downplaying the crisis? When will tangible solutions be implemented? And how do people say there is normalcy? Well, with this, we welcome you to tonight's Undaunted. How are you doing, sir?
Splendid, Onyi. Well, in Tuba is it tears after the life of a young girl in her prime was cut short by the La République du Cameroon colonial military. The incident happened on Monday, September 16, 2024, when Colonial Forces invaded Kejum, Kitingu village in Tuba local government area. Now, shooting randomly and killing a young girl in the process. The thugs not only invaded but also other localities like Babanki, Tingi, prompting the villagers to flee for their lives. At first time, Undaunted had not gotten the identity of the assassinated girl after the atrocities, and as a way to cover their crime, the Colonial Forces tagged the girl an Amba fighter, an allegation that a relative vehemently refuted.
Well, the relative who voted for anonymity opined that the sister only took refuge in a nearby house for safety during the deafening gunshots by the Colonial Forces without any questioning or investigation whosoever who was shot at. Well, it was not a stray bullet that killed my sister. She was shot at close range by the terrorist Yaoundé military, she added. Well, this incident comes to add to the gruesome shooting to death of a commercial motorcyclist at Upstation Hill in Bamenda by the same La République du Cameroon Colonial Forces. No one is safe in Ambazonia. No one is safe in the Federal Republic of Ambazonia with the presence of La République du Cameroon Colonial Forces.
Well, since the unholy union between La République and the Southern Cameroons, the colonial administration has employed aggressive strategies of oppression and intimidation against the people of Ambazonia. And not just the killing of this innocent young girl, but then a latest operation also highlights how this tactics persists in targeting innocent civilians, illustrating a disturbing continuity of state-sponsored terror enabled by the colonial regime.
Well, reports reveal that the colonial police and gendarmes arrested individuals indiscriminately with and without national identification documents. While in various neighborhoods across Boya, including Moko, Mile 17, Bumaka, and the St. Pete's, the arrest coincides with the scheduled screening of a documentary film featuring President Paul Biya, a move designed to reinforce the dominance of the colonial administration, which uses such events to suppress dissent and show force.
Now, since the end of the lockdown, the region has seen sporadic arrests and escalating tensions from the colonial regime. These operations are not isolated events, but are part of a long-standing practice of using brute force, abductions, and intimidation as tools to maintain control over Amazonian population. On the morning of September 18th and the following day, reports surfaced of mass arrests throughout Boya. These colonial forces operating without restraint abducted young people from their homes and streets, taking them to colonial police stations in Moya and Moko. And this has been since yesterday and today, with some being transferred to the central police station and the Gendarmerie Legion office. Families remain in constant fear for the safety of their loved ones, as this form of arbitrary arrest, popularly called Kali Kali, has become routine. The targeting of civilians, particularly the youth, points to a calculated efforts by the colonial regime to suppress any resistance by inflicting widespread fear.
Well, the colonial forces' actions are not accidental or incidental, but form part of a broader strategy to silence Ambazonian voices. This is evidenced by their continuous human rights violation, including the abduction of innocent civilians, often without due process. These acts are not new. They reflect the colonial regime's historical pattern of oppression and human rights abuses. If these atrocities were not state-sponsored, how they have continued unchecked for decades? That's the question we are asking. How come they have continued to stay unchecked for decades? Well, the ongoing unchecked brutality indicates that these actions align with the intentions of the colonial administration. This oppressive regime does not recognize the value of Ambazonian lives, and its forces act with impunity, suggesting that they are carrying out orders to further entrench colonial control through violence and intimidation.
Well, the mass arrest and ongoing violence in Ambazonia, yet again another grim reminder of the colonial regime's disregard for the rights and dignity of the Amazonian people. The fact that these human rights abuses continue without any consequence strongly suggests that they are sanctioned, if not directed, by the colonial administration, unless the international community and local leaders hold the regime accountable for these violations. The people of Ambazonia might continue to suffer under this oppressive system. The end of this brutality, however, is inevitable, as the resilience and determination of the Amazonian people to be free from the colonial clutches of La Republique will eventually prevail.